Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm Rosa Linda Román. I go by Rosa Linda, and welcome to my weekly live stream where I share a chapter of my book, Losing Sight of the Shore: How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family. That's a picture on the front of my 3 kids and our German Shepherd, Nala, when we lived on a boat called the Dawn Treader. And we are actually preparing to move on to another boat in the near future, actually very, very near future. So this is very timely that I'm revisiting some of the chapters from our live aboard adventures. All told, we have lived on boats for 5 years, starting in 2009, and the last time we lived aboard was in 2021. So I think we're long overdue, and I'm excited to share that next chapter in maybe another book in the future. But for now, I'm just reading a chapter a week of this book. So I'm going to do that here while I get my glasses out and get ready. I will tell you that I do share the printed version of the chapters on my Substack. Substack is an app. It's basically a platform for writers and readers to connect, and you can find some amazing writers on there. And for like $5 a month, you can subscribe and support your favorite authors. So it's pretty cool. But you can find the printed version and audio version there, but you get to see it live here. So this is also totally free. All right, let's find the chapter this week. Of course, I should have queued that up before I was live, but it has been a morning like that. So I'm going to do it now. If you are here live with me, please put a comment in the chat and then I can see it here on the broadcast. All right, without further ado, this is Losing Sight of the Shore: How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family, Chapter 15, Women Who Sail. In January 2018, toward the end of our month in Puerto Rico for Ahava's bat mitzvah, the list of Nathan's work obligations was growing quickly. We flew back to Florida so he could return to full-time productivity. Ahava was also ready to get back to her full-time gymnastics training. Within weeks, the Florida competition season was already in full swing, but the boat and the dog were still in Georgetown, Exuma, Bahamas. Thinking back on this disconnected living arrangement, I remember how stressful it was. Not only were we far away from our beloved canine companion and boat, but we were feeling disconnected as a couple. I still held out hope that we would soon move back onto the Dawn Treader. The more in demand Nathan became, the less likely this looked. It was a tense time between us, and I felt my dreams of longer-term sailing slipping through my fingers like sand. Eventually, after a few heart-to-heart conversations with Nathan and Ahava, in which he expressed his desire to focus on pursuing a big promotion that was presenting itself at work, and she expressed how behind she was feeling in her gymnastics training, it became clear that moving back onto the boat was not going to happen. All of this took place in the wake of Hurricanes Irma and Maria, which devastated many Caribbean islands and destroyed so many boats. Nathan believed it was a seller's market, and he started pushing to sell the boat as soon as possible, rather than let her sit unused on a mooring in the Bahamas. Although it took me a while to agree to it, in April 2018, the Dawn Treader was put on the market. Within a month, we had an offer, and by May 18th, she was sold. I felt blindsided, angry, and alone. The problem with pursuing your wild, crazy dreams is that there aren't very many people to talk to who can appreciate what you're going through when things don't go the way you had hoped. Why don't you just move back to New Mexico, would be the logical question, since we did still own our house there. Or well-meaning friends might say, I wish I had your life, and mean it as a compliment, while my heart would interpret it as a warning not to share too much for fear of making someone else feel bad. How could I be so miserable inside when I had already gotten the chance to live on a boat in paradise? There was a voice inside me that was telling me to sit down, shut up, and stop complaining. I should just be grateful for what I did have and leave it at that. No one wanted to hear me talk about how my perfect plans didn't work out. In hindsight, I know this is total nonsense. Each person's challenges are relative to their own lives, and the most important thing we can do for each other is to connect with our hearts to help ease each other's burdens, even if we don't fully understand them. I just didn't know how to ask for that at the time. What I needed was a community that would inherently understand what I was wrestling with, and which would allow me to complain about my liveaboard life when I needed to. A community where I could express my true feelings without fear of judgment. In other words, I needed other women. Out on the water, this theme of women needing other women is something we talk about a lot. It is the reason that I was so grateful for the nannies we had on board along the way. Melissa, Linda, Allie, Lauren, and the ones we had while landlocked, Lidio and Annabelle. When we were away from shore with no other women around, it was nice to have another woman to talk to. Granted, there was also an employee-employer dynamic, which meant that I couldn't just vent freely like I might with a sister or girlfriend. Once when we were anchored in Elizabeth Harbor near Georgetown, Exuma, Bahamas, I heard an announcement that a couple that had circumnavigated would be giving a talk on Chat and Chill Beach that afternoon. I went to listen to their fascinating talk where they shared stories about their wonderful adventures sailing around the world. When it came time for the Q&A, someone asked the couple, "What was the best part and the worst part of your adventure?" I don't remember what the husband responded, but the wife said the best part was the replacement toilets that her husband got her for Christmas one year. And who can blame her for that? Marine toilets are the worst. So a toilet that actually works and doesn't smell like decaying marine life would be an amazing gift for any special occasion. As for the worst part, she said, not having other women around to talk to. If I know one thing from 20 years of marriage, it is that my need for female companionship is very real, and my husband can't fully understand it because he is just wired differently. He doesn't require deep conversations to satisfy his soul. Now that I have 2 daughters and a son, I hesitate to say that men and women are just different, because I know we are all different and we are all the same, and there are exceptions to everything. But the fact is, whether out on the water or in a tight-knit neighborhood, I have found that women generally like to talk things over. And when your husband decides to sell your boat, which happens to be your home, even if it is for all the right reasons, you really need an entire tribe of women to talk it out with. Gratefully, I found that tribe in a group called Women Who Sail, or WWS. Women Who Sail is a group whose stated mission is a place to come together to share insights, tips, questions, excitement, and most importantly, support over what it's like to be a woman in the boating world. We work hard to keep this very diverse group respectful, supportive, and on target. So perfect, right? Since moving off the Dawn Treader, Women Who Sail has been a breath of fresh air as I navigate new waters in my life. It gave me people to talk to and commiserate with who actually understood what I was going through, even if it was just lending a virtual ear. I tell people all the time that this is the best place on the internet. The reason for that is because the admins are diligent about sticking to the vision of its founder, Charlotte Kaufman, in creating a kind, safe, and helpful space for women to come together without fear of shame or judgment. I can't tell you how much I love this group. Needing other women to chat with was the spark that led me to Women Who Sail. The powerful network I found there kept me coming back, even after we sold the Dawn Treader. It was through Women Who Sail that I found solutions to the boat and dog still being in the Bahamas problem. It was also where I started to come to terms with the reality that it was not Nathan's fault that I no longer lived on a boat. From the minute we bought the Dawn Treader, there was one thing everyone knew when they stepped aboard. Nathan was her captain, and nobody else ever drove the boat without him. This may sound like a sexist attitude, but if it is, I'm the one who needs to take responsibility for that sexism. Nathan came to our liveaboard life with the skills to captain the boat, and I never made it a priority to learn how to handle her on my own. Yes, there were a few times that I brought up the idea of my learning how to sail, but at the first sign of resistance, I did not push. The truth is, I was happy in my roles as first mate, mommy, teacher, and documentarian. I didn't push because I didn't want to worry about one more thing. In hindsight, this was probably a mistake because it took put too much on my husband's plate and made it that much more likely he would want to move away from this lifestyle where so much of the responsibility rested on his shoulders alone. This inability to handle the boat without my beloved burned me more than once on our journey, like the walk the dog incident in Georgetown, and is the reason I found myself very stressed out in the months leading up to the sale of the Dawn Treader. Nala and the boat were still in the Bahamas, and Nathan's schedule was completely overbooked, leaving us without a captain to sail her back to Florida. Add to that the seemingly unbreakable rule that only Nathan drove the boat, and I found myself feeling all kinds of helpless. As I wrestled with this predicament, I turned to the wise women of Women Who Sail to see if anyone might be in the area and willing to dog or boat sit, or both, until I could come up with a solution. The result was far better than I had imagined, as Captain Verena Kellner and her husband, Mike Castle, came into our lives. It's a long chapter. With full disclosure, when I first brought the proposal to Nathan about having someone else bring our boat and our dog back from the Bahamas, his answer was not just no, but hell no. But there was another factor that I think ultimately led to his saying yes. Our sales broker, Brent Herman of the Catamaran Company, was putting on the pressure to get the boat back to Fort Lauderdale so that he could increase the number of potential shoppers seeing her. A mooring in a tiny harbor on Stocking Island near Georgetown, Exumas, was not a convenient place for potential buyers to drop by and take a look. There was more to this than just wanting someone to pick up the boat. By then, I was in a full-blown panic over Nala. When we left the Bahamas in early January, we left her in the care of a family that promised to love her and keep her while we flew to Puerto Rico for Ahava's bat mitzvah. I never wanted to leave her at all, but the woman's husband had just been hospitalized in the U.S., and she was alone with 2 little kids on a remote island. She said she felt safer with Nala staying there to protect them, and I thought Nala would be happier there than if we dragged her to Puerto Rico, where they were still reeling from Hurricane Maria. Reluctantly, we agreed to let Nala stay in Georgetown. This plan seemed fine until a few weeks in, when we stopped getting reports about how Nala was doing. We started calling and messaging her caregiver, but we were getting little or no response, and I was really starting to worry. Finally, after a lot of pushing, the woman admitted that she hadn't seen Nala in days. This was horrible news, and we felt so helpless. Our sweet puppy was lost on a tropical island without anyone to love or care for her. I knew we just had to get there somehow. This is when I reached out to a subgroup of Women Who Sail, which was all about boat and pet sitting. Even this idea was not being met with resounding approval by Nathan, but at least he said he would consider it if it meant getting to the bottom of where our dog was. A few women sent me inquiries about what exactly I was looking for, and I honestly didn't know. Did I want a random stranger to fly to the Bahamas, live on our boat, and look for our dog? And what if it was a terrible discovery that something had happened to Nala? The stress I felt at that moment in our lives was crazy high. Gratefully, in the middle of it all, we got a text from the woman who was supposed to be watching Nala, telling us that she had been found, was okay, and being cared for by the owners of a hotel on the island. This was a huge relief, but it didn't change the fact that I really, really wanted to get to the Bahamas to get my boat and my dog. I decided if worse came to worse, I would fly there myself and bring Nala back on an airplane. So I bought a ticket to Georgetown and moved forward with the plan. Right around that time, I got a note from a woman who had seen my post on Women Who Sail, who thought she might be able to help. Here's what she wrote and a little bit of the conversation between us. From Verena Kellner. Hi, Rosa Linda. Did you get your situation with your dog and boat figured out? My husband and I are both 100-ton licensed captains and work making charts and cruising when we are not working. We have been looking at Lagoons to buy as our next boat. Any interest in having us deliver your boat to Florida? We would pay for all our expenses, of course. So you can get to know us a bit. Please take a look at our blog at pacificsailors.com. Thanks, Verena. This is from me. Hi, what a wonderful offer. That would be something I would definitely be interested in talking about. Not sure what my sweetheart will think. Let me take a look at your blog and chat with him. How soon could you come if he says yes? Verena, wonderful. We could probably get to the Bahamas within a week or two, depending on flights. Our own boat is in Washington under shrink wrap, and we would like to get back to her late spring. But our schedule is very flexible for the next few months. Looking forward to chatting more. So began a brand new chapter for the Dawn Treader, where Nathan was no longer her only captain. It took a few weeks for Nathan to agree to let Verena and Mike sail the boat back to Florida, and a few more to get our insurer to add them to our policy. By early March, we had a plan. I would fly from Florida to Georgetown, collect Nala, which proved to be much harder than expected, as the hotel owners who were caring for her were hesitant to release her to people they had convinced themselves had abandoned her, and start prepping the Dawn Treader. Then, a few days later, the captains would arrive to continue the prep work before sailing her back to Florida. At first, we thought we might leave Nala on the boat with them for the sail back to Florida, but once I got her in my sights, I wasn't about to let her think I was abandoning her again. Before Nala and I took our flight out of Georgetown, Verena and Mike moved the Dawn Treader off the mooring in Hole 3 and out into Elizabeth Harbor. For me, the best part was watching Verena's quiet confidence as she took the helm. She and Mike worked beautifully together as a team. He fixed the ever-breaking dinghy engine. She cooked gourmet meals, among many other things, and I felt confident as I left the Dawn Treader in their very capable hands. After a few weeks aboard, Verena and Mike delivered the Dawn Treader to the Catamaran Company in Fort Lauderdale, where she sold within weeks. The range of emotions I went through during that time was like the craziest roller coaster I have ever been on. Gratefully, thanks to the wonderful tribe of women who sail, I didn't have to ride that one alone. And that is chapter 15, Women Who Sail, Losing Sight of the Shore. And it's really interesting to read that again now because, that would have been 2018. So 6 years ago? So much has changed in our lives. We've had so many wonderful adventures off the boat. We actually ended up buying this boat back after quite some time because the couple that had bought it from us was struggling with her and had some health issues. And so we ended up buying the Dawn Treader back during COVID times and went on to have wonderful additional adventures. So my gut feeling that there was still more to come was absolutely right. We sold her in 2021 to move back to New Mexico because my daughter wanted to have a landlocked experience, more of a traditional brick and mortar, so that she could go to apply to the Naval Academy, which is where she is right now doing sea trials as we speak. So everyone say a little prayer for Ahava to get through her crazy sea trials. And if you want to follow more of our adventures, we are prepping to move on to a catamaran, this time in the Mediterranean, at the end of June. So we've got a lot more to talk about. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, and we'll talk again this time next week. Thanks for checking out my live stream. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.